And we're live on a Friday. Hey, welcome to ADRAMADA, another Dave Rush Ask Me Anything, digital alchemy. I am the aforementioned Dave Rush, and you have found ADRAMADA. We get together once a week, usually on Thursdays, but because of work commitments, I've had to do last week's show, this week's show, and one more time, next week's show on Friday. So that's awesome because Joey Quetzal can join us live. He never gets a chance to do that. Tell it, you need to be so embarrassed about the More Power line. Hey, we had a lot of stuff to do today. We are not going to get through it. I'm going to kind of edit my notes on the fly. I have a marvelous presentation of technology, and that's the nature of this show. We are a tech show. We're not an IT show, although we do put a lot of effort into that. But any kind of tech is fair game, from space tech to electronics to music and movies and whatever else you got. I have been watching a lot of the behind the scenes efforts from the most recent Alien movie. Man, movie tech just gets, better and better and better. And I don't know about you, but the less CGI for me, the better. There are some things you just gotta have CGI for, right? But you give me somebody in a good costume, and these costumes are so tech. All right, well, let's check and see who's here. Tullwood, of course, turns up 6 hours early. Shia Moonstone, 3 hours ago. Welcome, Shia Moonstone. And then everybody turns up right on time. Trisha Grace as storms rolling through. I do hope you maintain power. I was talking to my sister in Tampa yesterday. They got significant flooding in her neck of the woods. So I know you're northeast. Stay dry, or at least keep power. Tullwood's good. We're all praying. Joey's here. Shia's doing good. I'm doing good. We did a Thomas Edison power quote today because we're talking about power devices, devices that work with or generate alternating current, AC. And Jason, I'll just tell you, I got the power of Grayskull. You got to hold a sword up if you're going to say that. I'm trying to think. Does he shout, "I am the power"? Or, I've got not Spaceballs, Galaxy Quest running through my head. By the sons of Katie Warfin. Oh, shame on you all. The places you put me. Hey, well, let's see what's going on here in Uncle Notes here. Today is Friday, September 6th. You can tell because I have Thursday written in my notes. There, Friday. And as we are this close to October, and after a trip to the grocery store last week, I am following suit. All ADRAMADA episodes from now through the end of 2024 will be pumpkin spiced. I only tried pumpkin spice for the first time last year after Halloween. I don't care for pumpkin. I don't hate it. I'd eat a pumpkin pie if somebody gave me a slice. But I just, I never envisioned that. But then I went and learned what pumpkin spice is. It has very little to do with pumpkin. It's what they put in pumpkin pie to make it edible. And it's primarily cloves and cinnamon. So, fine. Pumpkin spice, anything you want. Hey, today, September 6th, is notable in history. I got 2 items that I put in. One, the assassination of William McKinley, U.S. president, 1901. He was shot and assassinated by an anarchist named Leon. I'm going to try the pronunciation on this. It starts with a CZ and it ends with an SZ. So let's go with Czolgosz. While McKinley was visiting the Pan American Exposition in New York. That's in my news feed because William McKinley is from Canton, Ohio, as is yours truly. He has a monument up there, and when we were kids, we would go to the McKinley Monument all the time. Every weekend, every other weekend. It's a monument built on a nice 2-tiered hill which is great to run down. When my wife and I were dating, or early on, sorry about that, I dragged her down the hill one time. We went tumbling. As a kid, we used to sled down that hill, and just so. McKinley, big man too. Also, this day in history, in 1916, the first true supermarket opened. If you are watching this from an international, if you haven't been to the U.S. and in particular to the U.S. Southeast, you will not have heard about this place, but it better crack you up. 1916, the first true supermarket, Piggly Wiggly, was established by Clarence Saunders in Memphis, Tennessee. The grand opening delayed by 5 days, didn't open up the 11th, but Piggly Wiggly is still around, and as a supermarket, it has both groceries, and non-grocery items, clothing and things like that. I don't know, is that true? What about the general store? They had food. They had rifles and ammo and metal and clothing. Whatever. Let's see. We got a Discord home. Come and hang out. We talk tech. We do all kinds of really cool things over there. I got that in the chat feed. If you want to contact me for any insane reason, I got a couple of email addresses in the chat feed. And if you want to track me on some of my social media endeavors, besides the Discord server, they too are in the chat feed. Let's wake up some slides here for a second. Just for a moment. So last week's show, we did part 2 of our network time protocol, NTP, presentation. On week 1, we talked about it. We talked about configurations and infrastructure and what it did and how it worked and use cases and things like that. And then last week, we installed and configured an NTP client and an NTP server on a Linux box. And the really cool thing about that is it's the same piece of software. It's the same configuration file. The only thing we have to do is install it, and bam, it's a client. You can go in there and update what you want as your preferred list of NTP servers to get time from. And then if you want it to be an NTP server, all you have to do is go in and add one or more lines that defines who you are going to allow in the form of IP addresses or network addresses or whatever to get time from this box. So it was really fun. It's really easy. Enjoyed that thing. This week, I guess you can't do that. There we go. You can do that one. We are doing something I'm calling AC devices on all of the announcements and things like that. We call it generators, transformers, and inverters. Fine. So again, those are all AC devices. They either use AC, they convert AC, they make AC, they convert things to AC, and those are the 3 biggies. We'll probably go light on the transformers, and we're going to have to sacrifice something. Transformers are going to be the sacrificial lamb. Stuff in the week, personal stuff. I upgraded right after the show, a day or two after the show last week. I upgraded 3 different Ubuntu boxes from 22.04 Jammy Jellyfish to 24.04 Noble Numbat. All of them went flawlessly, but they all had a slightly different trigger mechanism, and there were slightly different steps along the way. And the whys and the wherefores, I'm not real clear on that. My daily driver, I switched over to him, and it said, hey, it's time to update or upgrade. Do you want to do it? My development box, which is identical in almost every way, there is one notable difference, and that's that it doesn't have the Pro Services subscription, so maybe this was the reason it didn't prompt me. So I rebooted it, just updated and made sure the prompt didn't come, and so I looked it up, and there's just one command that you have to run And both of these have one or two slightly different questions that it asks you along the way, but they were both very quick. They were both around a half an hour or so. And then yet a third method. I did an Ubuntu that I've got running on a Raspberry Pi. They use a different trigger. And because Raspberry Pi is a little on the slower side as far as storage devices go, and I'd say that's a 4. It's got a full speed network connection. Anyways, took about an hour for that one. But they're all working. And if you were on Discord today, you'll see that I posted something there, and I will mention it here. Yesterday, Ubuntu halted the scripted automated upgrade procedure that upgrades from Ubuntu 22.04 long-term LTS to 24.04 long-term because there is what they describe as a critical error that prevents some hosts from successfully performing the upgrade. That is worse than it sounds, right? Because if you're halfway through the upgrade, you've lost some files, you've got some new files. So it's not like it just fails. It fails with criticality. So they've got that stopped while they work on that. Fortunately, I was not one of the affected people. So all good. I have a pair of hummingbirds. I had one hummingbird all season up until about 2-3 weeks ago. And then I saw another one start dive bombing the one. And he keeps getting chased off. And every day they get closer and closer and closer and closer. This morning, for the first time, they shared the hummingbird feeder. Not for very long. They've mostly been chasing each other all day. But it's really kind of fun watching this pair of hummingbirds right outside my window. They're about 8 feet from where I'm sitting. In the news tonight, on my way home from a shindig, news report, Big Lots, possible bankruptcy as early as this Sunday, 2 days from today. So if you like Big Lots, and I do, they've got a few things that I actually stock up on now and again. Maybe tomorrow's a good day to go shopping, huh? All right, let's see what you guys are doing and talking about, and then we will get into the news of the week. I'm going to go through it pretty quickly so we can get on to our presentation. You're not talking about anything. Yeah, Shy Moonstone got that power plug. Love power. Oh, no, here we go. Okay, so moving up a little bit. This is Patricia Grace at 06. My brother owns 2 Piggly Wiggly stores. My mom used to work at one a long time ago. How cool. What a nice connection. Yeah, Piggly Wiggly is big in Florida. I don't think we have any in Texas. And I can't begin to tell you how long it's been since I've been to one. 20 years? 15 at least. Yeah, just another retail outlet going. You know, they're so cheap. It's miraculous to me that they survive. I don't know how they get their stuff so cheap that they can stay in business as long as they did. They have been desperately, apparently, hunting for a buyer to avoid this bankruptcy. And who knows, maybe somebody will come up with something this weekend. I think if we all chip in $50, we could probably buy the place out. I don't know any here in Florida. Oh, really? Okay. Publix in your neck of the woods with an X. Very good. All right, let us dive into the world of news. In reverse order of space events, Polaris Dawn, the SpaceX commercial crewed launch, CREW, not CRUDE, scheduled for about 7 hours from now, 3:33 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And as we mentioned last week, it's going to conduct about 40 experiments, including a pair of dual spacewalks to test their new suits at 437 miles above the Earth. I don't know how long they're... I never bothered to look to see how long they're going to be up. I can't imagine they're more than 3 days or so, but I don't know that. And as some of you know, we've been following this on Discord and by communications with one another. Guys, get on Discord. If you're watching this on archive and you're not hanging out on our Discord server, you are missing stuff. You are missing stuff. Anyways, I'm on a couple NASA feeds, and one of them came from ISS on Wednesday. The crew explored ways to prevent space-caused fluid shifts to protect astronauts' eyes, and they packed up a pair of spaceships for return to Earth. Starliner scheduled to undock 2 hours before the show began. It did. I watched it drift away for half hour, 45 minutes while I was driving to from this shindig I was at today. And then NASA cut the feed because it all went off just fine, or because something horrible happened and they didn't want to share it with us. And as Patricia says, they're going to pick up the feed. They're supposed to pick it up about an hour before they're using the term touchdown. I hope it's a touchdown. Touchdown. But there's a reason they didn't put a crew on there. That it's not 100% safe. It's not 100% sure. Supposed to arrive at White Sands around midnight, New Mexico time. So what do we got? Courtesy NASA 5:45. They're going to start the NASA cast at 5:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight. That doesn't make sense. 21:45 GMT. Oh, that was the launch. Here we go. Due to arrive 12:03 a.m. Eastern. That's 04:03 GMT if you're into that, or UTC if you prefer. Okay, we're good to go here. Slides. Helps to have more slides. So they push the one off up on top. So I have, waiting for a project, waiting for the time for a project. I got projects. Gosh, golly, I got projects. I stuck them up the other day. I've got a pair of the new Pico 2 circuit boards. I had a spill on my desk today, and I just threw everything back up in a pile, so I don't know where it is. Anyways, there has been much consternation over the last week and a half that there is a perceived flaw in these things. Raspberry Pi has not made an official statement. On the Raspberry Pi forums, people who speak for Raspberry Pi, the moderators and things like that, they obviously have marching orders on how to address the questions and topics, and they're saying this is not a flaw. This is something that's new and different in the chip, and we don't consider it serious, so it's documented in errata. But the community, and myself included, this is a major hardware flaw. And basically what it means is built into devices with these general purpose input-output pins are little resistors. Two for each pin. And one of them is called a pull-up resistor. It's used to hold up and maintain voltage. And one, not surprisingly, is called a pull-down resistor. And we use them for all kinds of things. And one of the things to use them for is to preset a value on a pin, 0 or 3.3 volts or 5 volts, whatever, some positive voltage. And the pull-down resistor isn't working right. They say that it's working the way it's supposed to. Bull, because nobody does it that way. Everybody needs it set to work with IoT devices in a standard way, and this isn't the way you did Pico 1. So, I wish they're a great organization. They're honest and mostly transparent. And this one, they are just hiding behind the bush and giving weasel words. And Raspberry Pi folks, get your act together here. Fess up. Get it fixed. Replace the ones for those of us who need these functions. This really sucks. This really sucks. Kimu, the the emulator. It's more than an emulator. It's an emulator. It's a hypervisor. They've come out with their newest version this couple days ago. It's 9.1. A lot of bug fixes, but the new enhancements, the things that are most interesting to me, there's performance improvements, there's security improvements, and we'll key on compatibility improvements. There's two things I really love here. One, migration features. I learned very recently about ways to move virtual machines from one machine to another machine without them going down. And it's live migration. They move RAM contents and they move CPU activities and settings and stacks and all that stuff. And then once it's all moved and they're all in sync, kill the old one and the new one takes over. You get storage from wherever you have storage from. So Kimu does that too, but they've gotten better at it. How's that? And the other thing, the compatibility thing, more and better compatibility with ARM. I love that because of the Raspberry Pi. Apple loves it because all of their new chips and on their new computers, they're ARM-based. They support new features, including support for nested page tables. Nested page tables are virtualized RAM within RAM. Carry that to the next level. How about we're virtualizing a Raspberry Pi in real RAM, so it's got virtualized RAM, and now we're going to virtualize nested page tables within there. Double virtualized embedded RAM. That's amazing. Audacity came out with a new release this week. Release 3.6.2. We did a show last year on Audacity, the open source audio editor. I love Audacity. I use it regularly. It's mostly a bug fix, but one of the things that they did that was really cool is they brought back some legacy effects that had been pulled out in recent iterations. Those effects including the old limiter, the old compressor, classic filters. All right, that's all the news that's fit to print. Back to me. Oh, I'll do it like this. I remember how to do that. All right. Sorry, going through notes here, going through pages. And there we go. I'm on project. Let's see what you guys are talking about. And then we will get started. Good. A couple minutes early because I need a couple extra minutes. Patricia, I don't know any in here. Okay, we covered that. So you got Publix down there. You got Ollie's up there. You got Maynard's up there too, I think. We had them in Ohio. I think they're up in Michigan. Oops, I gave it away. Sorry. You like public subs, huh? There's an Ollie's in a nearby town. We don't have an Ollie's here. Yeah, maybe they don't sell guns. This is Texas. Word salad games. So does that mean I'm afraid to read? This is a Tullowit comment. Do I dare read it out loud without reading it? Sure, let's see what happens. Does that mean now, at long last, we actually can download more RAM? Yes, that's what it means. Okay, let's dive straight into projects. It is hurricane season in the northern hemisphere all over the world. Tullowit was staring down the teeth of one for about a week that just marvelously dissipated just outside of the Big Island. And all he got to see was remnants. Good for him. Those of us in the southeast U.S., we had Beryl this year. We've had some other bad weather, and Hong Kong is getting hammered with Hurricane Yagi, I believe it is. And of course, in October, India gets monsoon season. So there's lots of places in the world that go without commercial power, sometimes for a significant amount of time. And so you get a generator. I know not everybody can have a generator, but when you can, that's great. And there's other tools. We've got these transformers, which are not particularly useful in a power out situation. They're just there to change voltages of existing alternating current. We've got inverters. Inverters can take DC power and convert it into AC. You can do all kinds of things with that. So great. These are all plug and play boxes. It's like driving a car. You don't have to know how to fix a car or how to build a car to drive it well. But to maintain it and to get the best benefit out of it, it really helps to know a little bit about the inner workings and failure modes and fixes. And I think it's the same for the AC devices that we're going to talk about. So I want to teach you a little bit about the electronics, the use cases, and things like that. So let us start with some basic, fundamental, really fundamental electronic stuff. Can I do this? Ooh, not like that. I got to do a little shuffling around of content here. So, transformers, generators, and to some extent even inverters all use a principle called inductance. Inductance happens in a lot of ways. Inductance comes from magnets, it comes from really cool things, but we're going to start with a piece of wire, even a straight piece of wire, and run some current through there. And what happens is a little bit of magnetism develops around that wire. We can intensify that magnetism by coiling the wire up. But what if I don't have power to go through the wire and generate magnetism? Or more importantly, what if I don't want to generate magnetism? I want to do the opposite. Instead of running current through a wire and generate magnetism, I want to take magnetism, put it through a coil of wire, and generate power, generate voltage. Well, we can do that by taking a coil of wire and passing a magnet through it. What happens is it pushes electrons out of the way. And as we withdraw that magnet from the coil, those electrons rush back in. So what happens if we push that magnet in and out and in and out? Electrons go away, electrons come back. Electrons go away, electrons come back. Alternating current, AC. A little bit of magic, huh? So, some brilliant people a million years ago, the Henrys of the world and others, said, how about we commercialize this? Or how about we upscale it? How about we automate it? Let's take some magnets, maybe a pair of them, one with a north-facing pole and a south-facing pole, separate them from one another, and take some coils of wire and spin them in proximity of those two magnets. Well, now we can get alternating current in each of the coils of wires every time they pass one of the magnetic poles. And this becomes what you and I today call a generator. And we can control a lot of things with a generator. How many coils, how thick the wire is, how fast we spin it, how many magnets surround it. Later on, somebody got the brilliant idea that said, hey, why are we spinning these coils of wires, which are getting heavier and heavier and bigger because we want to make more and more power? How about we make coils of wires and hold them still and take rotating magnets and spin spin the magnets near the coils at the center of perhaps a circular arrangement of coils. Huh? That's a good idea. So that's what we've got here. Here's a little generator that's got 3 pairs of coiled wires, and you can't see it on this side, but on the other side of this drawing, there's a spinning magnet, and we're drawing power from the 3 different sets of coils. And because the magnets, okay, how can I possibly fix it? Let me see what I can see here. Yeah, I'm seeing what you're seeing. There is noise getting picked up by the microphone. Check, check, check. Let me see what I got up here. Try this. I can't fix it on the fly, guys. I'll do my best. Let me know if it becomes unbearable or unreadable. Anyway, so we got 3 sets of wires here, and as magnets spin past them, each of them generates electron flow starting at a 0 point that's in a different phase to one another. So this is called a 3-phase generator. And that's really cool stuff because three-phase power is really important in heavy machinery. All right, I'm seeing that the noise popping drop on my mic feed. Let me know in the same way that you communicated that to me last time. All right, moving on. So enter the generator, and generators can be this big and not generate a lot of power, or they can be in the lower left-hand corner, like a portable household generator, a couple thousand watts, 10,000 watts. I bought a new generator 2 days ago to replace my one that I've had for 15 years, and had it rebuilt a couple times, and it's showing its age, and I don't think it's worth rebuilding. So I went and bought a 12,000 watt generator that'll run my house and an air conditioner. A little flangey. Okay, sorry about that. I will put some effort into the setup this weekend. I apologize for that. Up on top, we've got a steam turbine generator. So we've got a bunch of turbines in there. We run high pressure steam through those turbines. We use steam because that has a lot more energy than air. And that's connected to a shaft, which in turn is connected to a magnet or magnets. And those magnets spin inside a collection of coils. And here we're going to run some, and we can generate that steam with nuclear power or burning fossil fuel or whatever else. And then on the right-hand side, we've got a hydroelectric generator, no steam. We're just going to run water past a turbine wheel and use that to spin our magnets or spin our coils. Pretty cool stuff, eh? So you can't see this marvelously clearly. Problem here. All right. Cancel that. We can do it this way. I need one more thing and I'm back in bits. Sorry about that. I'll explain what happened. Yeah, I can see that. That looks really bad. What can I do to fix it? Let me try something. If I can't fix it, we'll call it a day. Okay, that looks better. What are you thinking? Are we back? We got a better mic? All right, I'm going to leave it to you. Is it so bad that we should stop? Because I can't hear it here. I can only see visual representations. Sound is back and fading. I'm going to keep moving here. I'm understanding. All right. Sorry about that. Gee, me Christmas. All right, I got to get my slides caught up. We're around slide 17 somewhere. What are we doing on time? Where am I? Okay, so this is the slide we left off on. If you've got a generator, it's going to have some ratings that matter to you. You've got to have enough wattage to power the devices you are using. It has to be the right voltage. This particular data plate shows that the voltage, I can't even see it now, it's so small on my screen. We've got a frequency on here, 50 hertz. Oh yeah, it's 400 volts or 230. So this is great for equipment running 220. 230 in the US might be native functional in Europe. Confusing myself trying to fix values. Do this at the same time. Moving. Do my best. I'm going to spend a couple seconds because I've picked up some time here. I've improved my time. Mentioning transformers. So here's a coil of wire that I'm going to run current through, and I'm going to put another coil of wire in proximity to it. I can separate them with air. I can separate them with other materials. And what happens is the magnetism from one of the sets of coiled wires induces itself on the other coil of wires. And so it's magnetism that's going with the alternating current, in out magnetism. So that goes to the next coil of wire, and that causes electrons to go in, out, in, out. If we put the same number of coils on either side of a transformer, whatever voltage I put in on one side will come out the same on the other side. So why would I even do that? Well, they do that because they're making something called an isolation transformer. But this is where it gets really cool. If you put a lot of coils of wire on the output side and a few coils of wires on the input side, the ratio matters. Let's say that I've got 3 times more windings, coils, on the output side of this. So this has 9 coils, 9 windings on it. This has 3, because it's all the fingers I got here. Well, what happens is, if I put 100 volts in here, what comes out of here is 300 volts. And you can do that in reverse. You can reverse, or you can reduce the amount of output voltage by starting out with a lot of windings on the input side. Let's make this 100 volts, and put a few windings on the input side. Let's make it about 1/3 less, 1/3 total. There we go. And we'll get 33 volts coming out of this thing. All right, a lot more to it, but I'm not going to do a big presentation on transformers because I want to get into inverters. But I will tell you, there's the drawing of that system. So we got a few coils on the left side of this thing. We got a lot of coils on the right side of this thing. Voltage goes in on the left, comes out on the right. And this, because it increases the voltage, is called a step-up transformer. And on the other side, step down next. The material that we put in, if we do it the other way around, it's a step-down transformer. The material that we put the coils around, the windings around, varies from laminated iron plates to, this is called a toroid. It's a round, cylindrical tube that's got iron powder in it, and by changing the physical characteristics of that coil, we can change the intensity that the induction generates. It's really kind of cool. There's another toroidal transformer, one set of inputs, one set of outputs. This one has one set of inputs and two sets of outputs. Here's a transformer that has an air gap, that magnetic field around this whole flux. Toroidal 1-to-1, this is an isolation transformer. So we use transformers whenever we need to change the voltage from the alternating current that we have. Sometimes we need it for different pieces of equipment. So here is some laminated plates of iron, coils of wire wrapped around them. That iron helps transfer the magnetic flux. Same thing. The input windings are called the primaries, and the outputs are called the secondaries. This is an E-type. They found a way to make it even more efficiently induce the flux field, and that's by putting kind of an iron bridge in between the two sides where we put the primaries and secondary plates. All right, now to finish up what we really want to talk about, and that is an inverter. An inverter is opposite from a generator. A generator takes mechanical energy, spins magnets, and makes alternating current. An inverter doesn't spin anything. It doesn't start with alternating current. It starts with direct current, which we can get from a battery, we can get from solar powers, from another other place. You can even get it from alternating current by electronically converting it to DC, but that's kind of silly, right? Because if you've got alternating current, you don't need an inverter. There's some arguments where you might. Maybe the inverter generates different output voltage than you need. Maybe it generates a different output frequency. Inverters come in all kinds of flavors and all kinds of capacities. You can buy a little 15-watt inverter for $3. I bought an inverter, a couple of inverters the other day for some experiments I'm doing here. And this one is a 300-watt inverter. It cost me $10. New, it costs about $25 or $30. So I've got a cigarette lighter on the cord here, a cigarette plug, and okay, in theory I can plug that into a car cigarette lighter, but in a second we're going to find out why probably not. They make these things big, 3,000 watts, sometimes more. And they're including them in generators right now, reducing some of the mechanical components, reducing some of the noise. They're really kind of cool. So here is some solar panels. They're generating direct current, and each of them are going through these inverters that are inverting them and turning them into 230 volts AC. And they have to do some magic. They have to coordinate with each other so that they're all in phase. Now we run it through a circuit breaker and a meter and power your house, depending on how big. One of us watching here right now has solar panels on their home and inverting series with it. So that's kind of cool. I'm doing this without my notes on, I'm just going on the slides. So how an inverter works. So it's kind of weird. This one says we've got house power. We're going to plug it into something that makes DC. For instance, this handy little box here. This is a 12-volt DC power supply. Good for 120 watts. So I can plug it into my house with a standard 3-prong plug. And then at the other end is the old 12-volt cigarette lighter plug. Now I'm going to plug that into my inverter. going to make AC power. Along the way here, I'm also probably going to put a battery in line with my wall power. So my wall power is going to keep that battery charged, and then if wall power ever fails, the battery will take over and provide power to this inverter. So it can keep going until the battery runs out. That's kind of cool. Okay, so they're magic, right? They're perfect. They solve all problems. No, of course they don't. They've got a couple problems that are tough to deal with. One of them. So let's go back to our solar power situation here. Unlike our other solar power diagram we had, this one says I'm going to take your DC power out of the solar panel. I'm going to run it here into the inverter. I'm going to take some of that DC power and I'm going to send it down to the battery to keep the battery charged. And the rest of it I'm running through the inverter circuitry to make AC power so I can power my home in the upper right under my head. When it gets dark, the solar powers aren't going to generate power anymore, the solar panels. So the battery will take over and provide power until the sun comes back up. So you got to have enough battery power to deal with your dark periods. Now, if you've got cloud cover for 10 days because the hurricane goes overhead, you need a lot of batteries, or you're going to have an alternative power source, or you're going to have to live without power for a while. That's how she goes. Here's another. This is the thing I want you to walk away with. If you ever use an inverter. Inverters come in two flavors, cheap and not cheap. And the difference is the output power, the type of alternating current that they put out. And they make two categories of that. One is called modified sine wave, which sometimes has absolutely nothing to do with a sine wave. What comes out of your wall power right now is this lovely, delicious, smooth, alternating current sine wave. That's what's coming out of the power company. That's what comes out of good inverters. But cheap inverters, they won't do that. So I've got a good, clean sine wave on the top of this graph in red on the left and in blue on the right. Let's go down the left-hand side. Here is one kind of modified sine wave. This is called square waves. And when you try, basically you got high DC voltage and low DC voltage, negative DC voltage. There's a lot of equipment that if you plug into an inverter that's providing that, will die almost instantaneously. Square waves kill a lot of components that are designed to operate off of sine waves. Next, we have triangle waves. A little better, not as deadly to things that like smooth AC. And then the very bottom one, that's called sawtooth wave, which looks pretty similar to a triangle. Has that long ramp up voltage and then bam, drops back down to negative voltage and slow ramps up. More compatible with devices that like true sine. On the right side, underneath my head, that's the most common kind of modified sine wave we have now. It's little tiny DC step-ups, hold that voltage for a moment, then a little tiny step up again, hold that voltage, and does that until it gets to the highest value of voltage. You can see that pretty close to mimics a sine wave without actually being a sine wave. The trick is, look it up. When you're researching an inverter, for whatever reason, make sure you find out that it's more than modified sine wave. Get an image, get a description of what kind of sine wave it is. Here's the key to this. I think I've got another slide that's coming up. Devices that use an inductive load, heaters, things that heat up, things that have coils in them that are driven by voltage, they're perfectly tolerant of real sine waves, but they're also pretty darn tolerant of square waves and other modified sine waves. but equipment that doesn't use these bulky current suckers like heating coils, a computer power supply. There's nothing inductive in there. When you start pumping modified sine waves in there, the best you can hope for is it works. The most likely scenario is it won't work, but it won't hurt anything. And the worst case scenario is it will destroy the power supply. Yeesh, I hate that stuff. So here we've got some examples. Well, that's a really bad. I thought I made this great slide, but I didn't review it. Over here on the all throughout, these are all inductive load devices. So I got an iron in the upper left, and there's a Dyson heater cooler fan down on the bottom. The ultimate inductive load, a motor. We got some kitchen appliances here, blenders and food processors and things like that. Those are all fine with modified sine waves. Oh, there's a mixer on the right side under my head. Only 9 more slides. We're going to make it. So here's how it works. We're going to get direct current. Might come from a solar panel, might come from a battery. Those are your 2 main sources. We feed it into the inverter. The inverter uses electronic magic to generate some kind of alternating current output, either modified sine or pure sine. Pure sine is, why did I have that slide in there? Oh, we're done. We went through the whole slide thing. All right. That's all right. I got everything else that I need here. All right. So let's see if lighting will make this visible. Yeah. It actually says on here, pure sine wave, under Uncle Finger, a little graphic of pure sine. So this 300 watt unit is going to cost 2 or 3 times as much as a 300 watt inverter that uses modified sine wave. It takes more electronics, it takes higher quality electronics, and so you get what you pay for. But this will work with everything. I want to talk about one other thing here. It's called power in equals power out. And I was going to make a slide with power formulas, but I didn't, and that's all right. But the power formula is volts times current equals power in watts. Now, this is a 4-hour discussion, and I'm going to boil it down to 3 minutes. There's lots more that has to be talked about, but we're going to keep it on a very gross scale. So this thing is called a 300 watt inverter. That means it can put out 120 volts, that's what is specified, 300 watts. So using 120 times some number equals 300. That number happens to be 2.5 amps. So I can put 120 volts AC out, plugs here, at 2.5 amps. That means in order to pull that off, I have to put 300 watts in. And the input is 12 volts. So we use the power formula again. 12 times some number equals 300. What is that number? It's 25. So I have to get 300 watts out of here, I got to put 300 watts into this thing. 25 amps at 12 volts. If you plug this into your car cigarette lighter, that thing probably has a 5 or a 10 amp fuse in it. So let's say it's 10 amps. That means I can push 120 amps, 120 watts through here. If I plug in stuff on this side that doesn't draw more than 120 watts, I'm good to go. But as soon as I plug in something that draws 200 watts, well, that's going to try and pull 200 watts from the 12 volt DC side. That's my face. Thinner than what? Then it's going to blow the fuse. And so that's why I have something like this when I have to do high-power experiments here. This thing can put out a couple of 100 watts, and that means I can get a couple 100 watts of AC out of there for the experiments that I'm doing. There will be a fuse on an inverter that says, I'm going to make double sure that you don't exceed the capacity of this thing. So this is a 25 amp fuse in here. If I replace this with a 10 amp fuse, that's fine. It'll just blow as soon as I put more than 250 watts coming out of here. 120 watts. All right. That's really raw. It's really gross. This is a topic that's worthy of 4 episodes. And I just wanted to expose you to generators are great. Generators take chemical energy, gasoline, diesel, sometimes mechanical energy, burning fuel, hydroelectric, wind, right? And we're going to spin magnets in coils of wire, and that's going to generate alternating current, which we can use to supply homes and businesses and things like that. If you've got alternating current available from a generator from the wall and you need maybe a different frequency, different phase, different voltage, you can use transformers for different voltages. You can use inverters when you only have DC or when you want to generate different frequencies and different phases of output, alternating currents. I have been losing weight. I wasn't going to bring it up, but I looked at myself in a mirror yesterday when I was doing a gig and in profile. Oh my gosh, since somebody took a picture of me with some people in April and I was in profile and I looked like Orson Welles. And I look less like Orson Welles. I looked at it and I said, oh my gosh, I'm not horrified here. It goes like this, and then it goes like this instead of like this. So yeah, there's a little bit of shape restored. Next week is not so busy. I have 1 gig on the books so far next week. The phone's gonna ring. It's gonna be more. You get the idea. I don't know what next week's show is gonna be. Let's wind this thing up. Though we're right on schedule. Keto, and all the warnings are coming out. You know, keto's going to cause this horrible illness and that one. And if you're 100% keto, you got that. So the Mist and I have taken to doing 1 meal a week right now, and we're marching toward 1 day a week. That's not going to be keto. It's not going to be, donuts all day. Oh, God. You can turn me out with donuts all day and the world would be the world's please. All right, let's wind this thing up. Can I do this without notes? Guys, it's been fun as always. I don't have my closing thing to copy and paste. I'm just going to wind this thing down. So, thank you for coming to the show. There is no show without you. Gee, I don't remember the opening sentence of my usual close. I'm also geared up on sentence number 2. How do I get out of this? So, do your best. Take steps to stay healthy. If at all possible, call or visit your parents. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, I bid you good night. I will see you next week one more time on a Friday, and then we'll be back to normal Thursday schedule. Watch the Discord channel. I have penciled in a watch party for this coming week before the next show. So group who's on the Discord server, let's get on there the next day or two and get our movie. I have been busting my hump to find a hard copy of Ferris Bueller. Sorry, not doing Ferris Bueller. We're doing what's the other one we were looking for? War Games. But if we're not War Games by the scheduled day, then we will do something else, whatever it may be. Hey, eat, or we'll see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.